The arrogant arrival Admiral Vorthik stood on the command bridge of the Dominator's Pride, his forearms crossed behind his massive frame as he gazed at the blue-green planet through the viewing portal. The third world from this system's star looked peaceful, almost inviting, with its swirling white clouds and vast oceans. But Vorthik felt only contempt for what lay beneath those clouds. Another primitive world, he growled to his second-in-command, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 12 star systems. Look at it, Sub-Commander Krex. They have not even managed to leave their own solar system properly. Their fastest ships barely crawl between their own planets. Sub-Commander Krex, a lean figure with sharp features typical of the Karnath warrior caste, nodded in agreement. Our intelligence shows they still fight among themselves, Admiral. Wars over resources, territory, even abstract concepts they call ideology. They have not achieved the unity necessary for true civilization. From her position at the science station, Dr. Zelina listened to the conversation with growing unease. As the ship's xenobiologist, she had spent months studying the intercepted transmissions from Earth. What she had discovered troubled her in ways she could not quite articulate. "Admiral," she said carefully, "perhaps we should observe them longer before making contact. These humans display some unusual characteristics." Vorthik turned his massive head toward her, his yellow eyes narrowing. "Unusual how, Doctor?" "They appear to be a standard Class 3 civilization, barely beyond their home world, fighting primitive wars with chemical explosives and metal projectiles." Dr. Zelina pulled up her research on the main display. Images of human art, music, literature, and scientific achievements filled the screen. "Their creativity levels are off the charts, sir. They produce art for no practical purpose. They tell stories that serve no survival function, and they make music that seems to exist purely for emotional stimulation." "Meaningless pursuits," Vorthik dismissed with a wave of his primary arm. "Proof of their primitive nature. A truly advanced species focuses on efficiency and conquest." "But, sir," Dr. Zelina persisted, "they also show remarkable adaptability. In just the last century, they have gone from primitive flying machines to orbital stations. Their technological advancement rate is unprecedented in galactic records." "Sub-Commander." Krex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "Doctor, you worry too much. Speed of advancement means nothing when the endpoint is still so primitive. Their most powerful weapons are mere chemical reactions. Their ships move by, burning fuel. They have not even mastered basic energy manipulation. Meanwhile, millions of kilometers away on Earth, Commander Sarah Chun was having the strangest morning of her military career. She stood in the command center of the Luna Defense Station, staring at readings that made no sense. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago, forgotten on the console as she tried to process what the long-range sensors were telling her. "Run the scan again," she ordered Lieutenant Morrison, her voice steady despite the growing knot in her stomach. "Same results, ma'am," Morrison replied, his face pale. "Object approximately 15 kilometers in length, 7 kilometers wide. It appeared at the edge of our solar system 12 hours ago and has been accelerating toward Earth ever since." "Commander." Chun studied the data streams flowing across her screens. Whatever this thing was, it moved unlike anything humans had ever built. No chemical propulsion, no visible exhaust signature, no heat bloom from nuclear engines. It simply moved through space as if the laws of physics were mere suggestions. "Communications. Try to establish contact," she ordered. "Already tried, ma'am. Multiple frequencies, multiple languages, even mathematical sequences. No response." Dr. Elena Vasquez burst into the command center, still wearing her laboratory coat, and carrying a datapad covered in calculations. As Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien contact scenarios, she had been pulled from her research the moment the object was detected. "Commander, I need to see the readings, she said breathlessly. Chun handed her the sensor data, watching as Dr. Vasquez's eyes widened with each line she read. This is not good, Dr. Vasquez whispered. Ships this size are not built for exploration or peaceful contact. This is a vessel designed for one purpose, conquest. Back aboard the Dominator's Pride, Admiral Vorthik was growing impatient. Enough observation. We follow standard protocol. Open a channel to the planet. The communications officer, a nervous young Karnath named Ilix, worked at his console for several minutes before reporting success. Channel open, Admiral. Broadcasting on all their major communication frequencies. Vorthik straightened to his. Full height, an imposing figure even by Karnath standards. His species had evolved as apex predators on a harsh world where only the strongest survived. The concept of negotiation was foreign to him. There were only conquerors and the conquered. Inhabitants of the third planet, he began, his voice carrying across space to every radio and television receiver on Earth. I am Admiral Vorthik of the Karnath Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You will cease all military activities and prepare for occupation. Resistance is futile and will result in the elimination of your species. The transmission cut off, leaving Earth in stunned silence. For several minutes, no one moved. Then slowly, the planet began to respond. In the Luna Command Center, Commander Chun felt a familiar sensation. It was the same feeling she had experienced during her first combat mission years earlier, a mixture of fear, determination, and something else, something that made her stand straighter and speak with absolute certainty. All stations, this is Luna Control. Implement Defense Protocol Omega. Immediately. This is not a drill. Across Earth, military bases went to full alert. Ships lifted off from hidden launch facilities. Weapon systems that had been theoretical just hours earlier were suddenly being rushed into production. But more importantly, something was happening that the Karnath had not expected. Humanity was uniting. Dr. Vasquez worked frantically at her console, coordinating with scientists around the globe. We need to assume they have been monitoring our communications, she told Commander Chun. They know our military capabilities, our technology levels, our weaknesses. But do they know our strengths? Chun asked. Captain Marcus Rivera was piloting a routine cargo run between Mars and Earth when the alert came through. His ship, the Wanderer, was loaded with rare metals from the asteroid belt. But he immediately changed course for Earth, like every other human ship in the solar system. He was racing home to face an enemy none of them understood. Earth Control, this is Captain Rivera aboard the Wanderer, he transmitted. ETA to Earth orbit, 18 hours. Cargo manifest includes titanium, platinum, and rare Earth elements. How can I help? The response came immediately. Captain Rivera. Divert to Shipyard Delta 7. They are retrofitting civilian vessels for combat operations. Marcus smiled grimly. He had served in the Earth Defense Force before becoming a cargo pilot. The thought of his little ship going up against something 15 kilometers long was terrifying, but he had never felt more ready for a fight. On the alien ship, Dr. Zelina continued monitoring human communications with growing alarm. Admiral, their response patterns are highly irregular. Most species either surrender immediately or dissolve into chaos when faced with superior force. What are these humans doing? Vorthik demanded. They are organizing, she replied quietly. Military units are coordinating across their entire planet. Civilian populations are mobilizing to support war efforts. They are behaving as if they believe they can actually win. Sub-Commander Krex snorted in derision. Let them organize. It will make the conquest more interesting. Perhaps they will provide better sport than the last few worlds we took. But Dr. Zelina was studying something else on her screens. human internet traffic had exploded with activity. Scientists were sharing research at unprecedented rates. Military strategists were developing new tactics in real time. Artists were creating propaganda that stirred something powerful in human psychology. "Admiral," she said slowly, "I am detecting something unusual in their social media communications." "What?" Vorthik asked impatiently. "They are not afraid," Dr. Zelina whispered. "They are angry." In a bunker deep beneath the Pentagon, President Elizabeth Warren met with her top military advisors. The room was filled with tension, but also with a strange sense of purpose that surprised everyone present. "Options," the president said simply. "General." Thomas Bradley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spoke first. "Conventional resistance is impossible. Their ship could destroy our entire fleet before we got within weapons range. So we do not fight conventionally," said Dr. Patricia Kim, head of the Department of Advanced Research Projects. "We have been working on theoretical scenarios for alien contact for decades. Some of our concepts are ready for immediate deployment." "What kind of concepts?" the president asked. Dr. Kim smiled for the first time in hours. "The kind that only humans would be crazy enough to attempt." As the hours passed, the Karnath watched with growing confusion as humanity prepared for war. They had expected panic, surrender, or at best, primitive resistance. Instead, they observed a species transforming itself with remarkable speed. Factories retooled their production lines overnight. Scientists collaborated across traditional boundaries. Military forces integrated with civilian populations in ways that defied standard conquest protocols. Most disturbing of all, humans began displaying a characteristic that Dr. Zelina had never seen in any other species. They were adapting to the threat faster than the threat could adapt to them. Admiral Vorthik ordered his ship to enter Earth's orbital space, confident that a close demonstration of Karnath power would end human resistance. As the massive vessel appeared in Earth's skies, casting shadows over entire cities, he expected immediate surrender. Instead, he received a transmission from Earth. Commander Chon's voice was calm and clear as she spoke for her entire species. "Admiral Vorthik of the Karnath Empire, this is Commander Sarah Chon of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your ultimatum, and our response is simple. No." The transmission continued, but now it was not just Chon's voice. It was joined by voices from every continent, every nation, every language group on Earth, all saying the same thing in perfect unison. No. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vorthik felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. These humans were not responding according to any pattern in Karnath military doctrine. They should have been terrified, desperate, fragmented. Instead, they seemed to have become something greater than the sum of their parts. Dr. Zelina looked up from her console with an expression of barely controlled fear. "Admiral, I strongly recommend we withdraw and request additional forces." "Retreat?" Vorthik roared. "From a primitive world? The Empire would have me executed for cowardice." "Sir," Dr. Zelina said quietly, "I do not think these humans are as primitive as we believed." As if to prove her point, the sensors detected something impossible. Dozens of human ships were rising from Earth's surface, but they were not the slow, chemical-powered vessels from the intelligence reports. These ships moved with purpose and speed that suggested technology far beyond what the Karnath had observed. "How is this possible?" Sub-Commander Krex demanded. Dr. Zelina studied the readings with growing dread. "They have been hiding their true capabilities." "Admiral, this was a trap, but it was too late for retreat. The Karnath had already committed to conquest, and humanity had accepted their challenge. What neither species understood was that this first contact would become a legend told across the galaxy for generations to come. The story of the day an ancient empire learned that there are some species you should never underestimate, and some fights you should never pick. The Carnath. We're about to discover why humans had survived on a world where everything tried to kill them. They were about to learn that evolution had not made humanity the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced species in the galaxy. Evolution had made them the most dangerous. And Admiral Vorthik was about to pay the ultimate price for his arrogance. The price of underestimation. Admiral Vorthik stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The primitive human ships were not only moving faster than their intelligence had suggested possible, but they were doing something that violated every principle of space combat he had learned in 3 decades of conquest. They were not attacking. Instead, human vessels had formed a complex pattern around Earth, moving in formations that seemed almost like a dance. Some ships accelerated toward the Dominator's Pride, only to veer away at the last moment. Others released clouds of what appeared to be metallic debris before disappearing behind Earth's moon. What are they doing? Sub-Commander Krex demanded, his voice tight with frustration. Dr. Zelina worked frantically at her console, trying to analyze the human behavior patterns. I am not certain, but their movements appear to be coordinated by some kind of distributed intelligence system. Each ship is acting independently, yet they are clearly following a unified strategy. It does not matter, Vorthik growled, though. Uncertainty crept into his voice. No strategy can overcome superior firepower. Target their largest vessel and fire. The Carnath weapon systems, designed to crack planets and vaporize entire fleets, locked onto Captain Rivera's retrofitted cargo ship. The Wanderer had been transformed in just 18 hours from a simple freight hauler into something that defied classification. Its hull bristled with experimental technology that Earth scientists had been developing in secret for years. As the alien weapon fired, Rivera executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for a ship of his size. The Wanderer seemed to fold space around itself, disappearing from the weapon's targeting system and reappearing several thousand kilometers away. Impossible, Krex whispered. They do not have that technology. But Dr. Zelina was beginning to understand something terrifying. Admiral, I do not think they had that technology until today. I believe they are inventing it as they fight. On Earth, the scene was unlike anything in human history. Every factory, laboratory, and workshop had been converted to war production. But this was not the industrial mobilization of previous conflicts. This was something entirely new. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in what had been MIT's physics department just 24 hours earlier. Now it was the center of humanity's most desperate research project. Screens showed real-time data from the battle in space, while scientists worked with equipment that had been theoretical just hours before. The quantum displacement field is working, she reported to Commander Chun via secure link. Captain Rivera's ship successfully avoided their weapon, but we detected massive energy feedback. They are using some kind of directed plasma system that operates on principles we are still trying to understand. Can we duplicate their technology? Chun asked. We do not need to duplicate it, Dr. Vasquez replied with a smile that would have terrified Admiral Vorthik if he could have seen it. We just need to turn it against them. Engineer Jake Thompson emerged from a workshop covered in grease and carrying what looked like a modified satellite dish. Dr. Vasquez, the resonance amplifier is ready for testing. If your calculations are correct, this should turn their own weapons into a weakness. Across the globe, similar scenes were playing out. In Tokyo, robotics engineers were creating swarms of microscopic drones. In London, quantum physicists were building devices that could manipulate probability itself. In Snow Paulo, biologists were engineering organisms that could survive in space and reproduce rapidly. But perhaps most importantly, in a small town in Kansas, a 12-year-old girl named Amy Chun was having an idea that would change the course of the battle. Amy had been following the alien invasion coverage on her tablet when she noticed something the adult experts had missed. The alien ship's movement patterns reminded her of something from her favorite video game. She quickly typed a message to her cousin Sarah, not knowing that Commander Sarah Chun was the same person coordinating Earth's defense. Cousin Sarah. The alien ship moves like the boss monster in Galaxy Conquest. It always attacks the strongest target first and ignores smaller threats until they become dangerous. Maybe you should make them think the wrong thing is dangerous? Commander Chun. Read her young cousin's message in the middle of coordinating humanity's most desperate hour. For a moment, she smiled. Then she realized the 12-year-old might have just provided the key to victory. All units, she broadcast, new tactical priority. Project Misdirection is now active. Admiral Vorthik watched in growing confusion as human behavior became even more erratic. Their largest ships began retreating, while smaller vessels moved closer to his position. Some human craft were broadcasting surrender messages, while others seemed to be malfunctioning, drifting helplessly in space. They are giving up, Krex said with satisfaction. Finally, they understand the futility of resistance. But Dr. Zelina was studying her instruments with growing alarm. Admiral, I am detecting massive energy buildups throughout their solar system. Whatever they are doing, it is not surrender. Asterisk, on the surface of Earth's moon, General Liu Wei oversaw the final preparations for humanity's most audacious plan. The Luna base had been transformed into something that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. Massive particle accelerators stretched across the lunar surface, powered by fusion reactors that had been assembled with desperate speed. Final systems check, General Liu announced. Project Prometheus is ready for activation. The plan was insane by any rational measure. Instead of trying to match the aliens' superior technology, humanity had decided to exploit the one advantage they possessed, the ability to think in ways no other species in the galaxy had ever considered. They were going to use the alien ships. Own power against it. Asterisk Jake Thompson's resonance amplifier had revealed something crucial about Karnath technology. Their weapons systems operated by drawing energy from their ship's main reactor and focusing it through crystalline matrices. The system was incredibly efficient, but it had one fatal flaw that only humans would have been creative enough to discover. Crystals could be made to resonate at specific frequencies, causing feedback loops that would overload the entire system. Dr. Vasquez made the final calculations as reports came in from around the solar system. All stations report ready. The probability matrix shows a 67% chance of success, and a 33% chance we destroy ourselves in the process, Commander Chun added grimly. Yes, Dr. Vasquez agreed, but a 100% chance we all die if we do nothing. Chun looked around the command center at the faces of her team. They were terrified, exhausted, and facing impossible odds. But they were also absolutely determined. This was humanity at its best and most dangerous. Execute Project Prometheus. Across the solar system, humanity struck with coordinated precision. The malfunctioning ships suddenly revealed themselves to be Trojan horses, releasing swarms of microscopic drones that attached themselves to the alien vessel's hull. The retreating warships executed impossible maneuvers, surrounding the Dominator's Pride in a complex three-dimensional formation. And from the moon, Luna Base fired a precisely calibrated particle beam directly at the alien ship's main reactor. Admiral Vorthik felt his ship shudder as systems began failing throughout the vessel. What is happening? He roared. Dr. Zelina stared at her readings in horror and admiration. They have weaponized our own technology against us. The resonance frequency is causing cascade failures in all our primary systems. But the humans were not finished. As the alien ship's shields flickered and failed, Captain Rivera piloted the Wanderer in what would become known as the most daring maneuver in human history. Using technology that had been invented less than a day earlier, he phased his ship, partially out of normal spacetime, and flew directly through the alien vessel's hull dot inside the Karnath ship. Rivera deployed the final component of humanity's plan. Amy Chun's video game insight had been correct. The aliens always focused on the most obvious threat while ignoring smaller dangers. So humanity had made sure the real weapon was something they would never see coming. The microscopic organisms, developed in Snow Paulo, began reproducing rapidly throughout the alien ship's life support systems. They were not designed to harm the crew directly, but to consume the exotic materials that powered Karnath technology. Within minutes, critical systems throughout the vessel began shutting down. Admiral Vorthik watched his mighty warship die around him. Lights flickered and went out. Gravity generators failed. The once proud bridge of the Dominator's pride became a tomb drifting in space. "How?" he whispered to Dr. Zelina as emergency power flickered to life. "How did they do this?" Dr. Zelina looked at her instruments one final time. The reading showed something that would haunt her for the rest of her life. In less than 24 hours, humanity had advanced their technology by what should have been centuries. They had not just adapted to the threat, they had evolved past it. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I believe we encountered something far more dangerous than a primitive species." "What do you mean?" "We encountered a species that becomes more dangerous the more pressure you put on them. We encountered humans." As the Dominator's pride drifted powerless in Earth's orbit, Commander Chun opened a communication channel to the alien vessel. "Admiral Vorthik, this is Commander Chun. Your ship is disabled, and your crew is no longer in danger. Our organisms will not harm you, but your vessel can no longer function in our solar system. You have a choice." Vorthik, his pride shattered along with his ship, could barely speak. "What choice?" "You can remain here as our prisoners, or you can take your escape pods and return to your empire with a message." "What message?" Commander Chun's voice carried across space with quiet authority. "Tell them that Earth is under human protection. Tell them what happens to those who threaten us. Tell them that humanity does not start fights, but we always finish them." In the days that followed, as Karnath escape pods limped back toward their home worlds, Admiral Vorthik had time to reflect on the lesson he had learned. The Karnath Empire had conquered dozens of worlds by assuming that superior technology guaranteed victory. They had never encountered a species that could innovate faster than they could attack. Dr. Zelina spent the journey home analyzing everything they had observed about humanity. Her final report would become legendary in galactic academic circles, though it would also mark the end of her career in the Karnath military. "Humans," she wrote, "represent a fundamental anomaly in galactic civilization. Most species develop technology slowly and predictably. Humans appear to develop technology in response to necessity, achieving in hours what should take years. Most species become more conservative when threatened. Humans become more creative. Most species break under sufficient pressure. Humans use pressure to forge themselves into something stronger." Her report concluded with a warning that would be ignored by most military commanders, but treasured by scientists throughout the galaxy. Any species that considers humans primitive based on their current technology level fundamentally misunderstands the nature of humanity. They are not a species that has achieved a certain level of advancement. They are a species that becomes whatever they need to become to survive. Back on Earth, as the celebrations died down and the world began to return to something resembling normal, Dr. Elena Vasquez made a discovery that would shape humanity's future among the stars. The technology they had developed during the crisis was not just defensive. It was the foundation for capabilities that would allow humans to travel between stars, explore the galaxy, and yes, defend other species from threats like the Carnith Empire. Commander Chun, promoted to admiral after the victory, established the first protocols for humanity's expansion into space. But she also established something else, the Chun Doctrine, which would become the foundation of human interstellar policy. "We will explore in peace," the doctrine stated, "but we will fight when necessary. We will defend ourselves and we will defend others. We will never start a war, but we will always be ready to finish one." Young Amy Chun, whose video game insight had helped save humanity, received a full scholarship to study xenopsychology. Her doctoral thesis, written years later, would become required reading at military academies across human space. Why adults should listen to kids. Pattern recognition across species barriers. As for Admiral Vorthik, he never commanded another ship. The Carnith Empire, faced with reports of a species that could adapt and innovate at impossible speeds, quietly added Earth to their list of worlds never to be approached. Other empires, hearing whispered stories of the human victory, began to reconsider their own expansion plans. But perhaps the most important consequence of first contact was not military or technological. It was psychological. Humanity had faced extinction and discovered that they were capable of becoming more than they had ever imagined. The species that had spent millennia fighting among themselves had found something that united them more powerfully than any ideology or religion. They had found their place among the stars. And across the galaxy, older and supposedly wiser civilizations began to understand a new truth. There were humans in the universe now. And humans, as Admiral Vorthik had learned too late, were not a species you wanted to fight. They were a species you wanted on your side when the real threats emerged from the dark between the stars. Because humanity had proven something that would echo across the cosmos for generations to come. Never underestimate a species that views impossible odds not as a reason to surrender, but as a challenge to overcome. The Carnith had made contact with humans, and they had paid the final price for their arrogance.